Hello, I am Tracy Otsuka, your host. Welcome back to ADHD for Smartass Women. My mission to show you who you are and inspire you to be it. After meeting thousands of ADHD women, I can say with confidence that every single one is brilliant at something, no exception. So, of course, I am delighted to introduce you to Latrice Prater. Latrice Prater is the founder of the Digital Solutions Team, a systems design agency helping women entrepreneurs build scalable, neurodivergent-friendly businesses. A Navy veteran, former educator, and certified director of operations, she has been leading multiple six-figure agencies since 2020, supporting powerhouse women with strategic systems and transformative automation. Oh, Latrice, it sounds like that's what I need. Latrice was diagnosed with ADHD in her 30s and used that discovery to reimagine entrepreneurship on her own terms. Latrice is the author of Chaos Queen, Embracing the Mess of Creating Success with ADHD, and has supported over 500 women through her agency and coaching. Based in Texas, she is a wife, mother of three, and passionate advocate for building brain-friendly businesses that don't force you to fit the mold. Welcome, Latrice. Did I get all of that right?
I think you got it right. You summed it up beautifully.
Wonderful. So, I want to talk about obviously what you do because as I'm saying it, I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I really need this. However, before we do that, we always talk about ADHD and the ADHD diagnoses first because it allows you to connect with our audience better. So, I know you were diagnosed in your 30s. Can you tell me what the circumstances were?
I had just started my business. A little backstory, I was already in therapy
Mm,
because I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and also bipolar 2, which is what used to be manic depression. So I was already talking to someone because of those issues, but
hmm
there was something else at play that I couldn't put my finger on. And because I guess I didn't know what was happening, I couldn't actually articulate to the therapist what was happening.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing actually ended up happening that just worked out or worked for in my favor is she sent me a resource one day. Like we had a session. She said she had a resource, something she wanted me to read. And it was in Attitude Mag, which is
Uh-huh.
ADD.
hmm
And because she sent me that resource, I read it, but I kind of started to just look at the site and it had a quiz about adult ADHD.
Yeah.
So I was intrigued. I took the quiz, and literally the results was like, you should talk to someone about like because it said I more than likely had ADHD, and I just told her. I told my therapist because she's my therapist that I meet with for my regular monthly sessions, but also my psychiatrist who manages my medications.
Ah.
So I told her about that and she did her assessment. And sure enough, it was exactly that. And getting that diagnosis actually brought a lot of things to the forefront and made a lot of things make sense.
So I'm curious, what were some of the symptoms that you were struggling with? And actually, what I should have asked first, I don't like asking two questions because it confuses our brains.
It does.
Um, so let's start with this question. Had you ever thought that you might have ADHD, or did that never cross your mind?
Never crossed my mind. Honestly, even getting the diagnosis, it was almost like in my brain, ADHD was for hyper little boys. That was exactly what my brain went to. So my hyper focus turned into learning about ADHD.
Yeah. I bet because that's what many of us do. So you're diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And truly, I don't think I've ever met anyone with ADHD who doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
some anxiety, whether it's clinical or not, or subclinical or not. But I'm curious about the bipolar
Mm.
too.
Yes.
So is that still a diagnosis that you thought, okay, that fits, or was it the ADHD that was really going on?
That's actually a really good question because once I understood what ADHD was and also what it does to adult women specifically, I did ask my therapist. I was like, well, how do we now know that these diagnoses are still like appropriate based on the fact that I had ADHD probably all my life because I didn't just grow up and get it, which could have led to it appearing as if I have these other things. But my therapist definitely explained to me the conditions around why I still have those diagnoses because I actually do. I take medication for the bipolar 2 and I take medication for my anxiety. And to be honest, we noticed when we were trying to find the right medication for
Mm-hmm.
my bipolar 2, we noticed even with the ADHD, when I started taking Adderall, I still had a lot of periods of like down moods. So it wasn't the same. Like it definitely was separate.
It wasn't related to something specific that was happening in your life, and it also it didn't just go away, like, in terms of it would come out of nowhere
Yes.
and stay for at least 2 weeks.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, yes. Like
okay.
that was exactly everything she explained to me when she was
Mhm.
telling me like, no, it's definitely its own diagnosis
Yeah,
and this is the reason why. And a lot of that stemmed from just childhood trauma.
yeah,
You know, unfortunately, everyone doesn't have the best childhood, but when you live in that survival mode all your life, you know, your body is conditioned. However, you don't realize how it affects you mentally and
yeah,
emotionally. So,
yeah. I'm sorry, Latrice, but it sounds like you have, maybe taken some of your struggles and turned it into your purpose?
yes,
Yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah, because I mean, I really believe that our best purposes give meaning to our past. And so I love what you've done. So tell me, what were some of your symptoms that you now know? Oh, wait, that was ADHD.
It's so funny because one of the things I always go back to once I got diagnosed, I started to think about my life because I'm like, how did we just find this out at 30 something years old? Like, how I made it through high school. I was top 10 in my class, I was number seven. You know, like I did well academically. So, what's happening? But I also realized the one thing that stood out to me is I always told people I don't know how to study. I never knew how to study in school. I didn't know what that meant. Like for me, it was almost like, so when you study, what do you do? Like I can't sit down and read something because half the time I'm gonna forget what I read. I just know I learn best when I'm in the act of doing, right? So as long as I have done it enough times, I can remember it. But I can't just simply sit down and start reading and like looking things over and try to remember. Like that is not how my brain works at all. So that started to make sense. Like, oh, okay, now I see why I used to always feel like I don't know how to study, or I would try to cram before a test because I didn't know what else to do. You know, I didn't know any other methods, and I didn't know I had ADHD. So, but it worked out.
Well, and you can see how if you don't know how to study, so let's say, and I'm using air quotes, you study in a new way and you study really hard, like the way they told you to.
Hmm.
And sometimes you get a good grade and sometimes you don't. So you're consistently inconsistent. You
Yeah.
can see how you would be like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do because sometimes I get good grades and sometimes I don't. Do
Hmm.
you now see, though, that it was all connected to interest?
It was all connected. I realized too, like with math, I used to always tell people I hated math.
Mm-hmm.
And my algebra teacher told me, stop saying that because you're actually really good at it. But I used to make a lot of dumb mistakes, and they were little mistakes because I moved so fast. But I also realized I was the kid that never knew how to show my work. I could tell you, like, I can get the answer. I know the answer, and I know it's the right answer, but I
Right.
don't know how I got it. I cannot show you how I got there.
You're exactly like my son. And so, unfortunately, in math, you got to show your work. You know, they don't care that you're just naturally brilliant and don't need to do all those steps, right?
Yes.
Were there any other symptoms? Were you messy and disorganized? Or are you the opposite where you learned that, ugh, visual pollution, I need to be really organized in order for my brain to work optimally?
I wasn't messy. I am actually pretty organized. Just like I don't have an issue with like time, being on time for things, but I also think because I was in the military that has something to do with it. So that conditioning. But I will say, as an adult, what I noticed was my issue with being easily distracted and not being able to focus, because I think that started to worsen over time because it wasn't treated. And I was trying to figure out why at 37 years old my attention span seemed to be so short, and I can't make myself do something that I need to do. I could not understand for the life of me. Like, anybody else can sit down at a 9 to 5 and just do the work. I never could. That's why I couldn't maintain in most jobs. I never lasted a job more than 18 months. I would always go find something new. But then I also realized it's because I got bored fast and I needed a dopamine hit. I needed something fresh. I needed to, feel alive again. So those were the things that started to really creep up as I got older. It was that lack of focus, distraction, and not understanding, like, why can't I be productive during the day? Why
Hmm.
does it feel like
Like all
I
the
need,
time.
yeah, like I don't understand.
But then sometimes I suspect you are so productive, it's insane.
Oh yeah, I can take 4 hours and get what most people done in 8 hours done in that short amount of time, because when I am hyper focused, I'm in it. I am zoned.
How long were you wait, what age did you go into the military?
Actually, I was 19 when I joined the military.
Your brain was still developing, and how long were you there?
I only did 4 years. I only did 4 years because when I joined the military, I ended up meeting my ex husband, and I had my first daughter, who is now, she'll be 18 on Monday, and she graduates high school in May. And not shortly after, I had my second child. They're 17 months apart, and she is 16. So I had both of them by the time I came up to that renewal period, and it was easier for me just to get out because their father was still in, and I did not like the idea of both of us being deployed.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Tell us, because we hear this all the time, that the military can actually be a great place for an ADHD brain. Tell us tell us what you think about that statement.
Yes and no, because it does give you order. It kind of forces you to be organized. It forces you to be timely. It puts you in a mindset of like organized routine, whereas that's not something that we're typically good at. But to be honest, at 19, that I needed it.
Yeah.
I needed it the most, and it carried over for like the rest of my life. I've been the same since, as far as organization, timeliness. But I say no because one thing about ADHD, especially with women, is when you tell me to do something, when I feel obligated to do something, there is something in me that wants to be defiant, and I don't want to do it anymore. And it's like, no. And in the military, even in the military, because I was smart enough to take the time to understand rules and regulations, I was one that you couldn't easily just tell what to do and when to do or how to do, because if I felt like it went against what the regulations said, I speak up, and I speak up fast. And I have had so many different types of conversations with people in the military and addressing some actual real issues because I refuse to let people disrespect me or talk to me like I don't matter simply because I'm lower ranking,
Yeah.
and B, as if you're more important or you are smarter than I am, simply because of your status in the military. I don't believe in that. I believe that you respect me as a person. I can respect your rank. I do understand the positioning, but you respect me as a person, because if you can't respect me as a person, then the ADHD part of my brain is like, oh, okay, so now I'm gonna have to show you who I am.
And there really is something about that. And it's in teachers and bosses. And if I don't respect you, I can't do what you're telling me to do. But if I respect you, I absolutely can. So much of it is dependent on who you get, right? Who you
Yes.
get as a boss, who you get as a teacher or a professor. So I'm curious, was that quality in you respected? And were you able to navigate well enough that it served you, or was it something that, ugh, she's a problem?
A little bit of both.
Depending on
And,
who
and
who
depending
who you
on
were
who,
dealing with, right?
yes, a little bit of both, for sure. There were people who definitely respected that quality in me,
Mm-hmm.
who loved the fact that I was never afraid to speak up. But then there were people who didn't like it because, to be honest, it was at my expense that some of those people had to visit the equal opportunity officer. And I was okay with that because I learned early on in the military, one, you document everything. So if I feel like it's a pattern of how it, like you're mistreating me, it's a pattern, I'm being singled out, I document. I want dates, times, because I want to make sure if I need to report it, that I have enough evidence, I've done my due diligence to show that no, it's not a case of this is in my head, this is what I think. This is what it is. It's been shown over time. So some people loved it, some people not so much.
Latrice, have you always felt like you're different from others?
Yes.
What were you like as a grade school kid?
Oh gosh. Grade school. First of all, I was like one of the tallest kids in elementary school, and probably some of middle school because I feel like I hit my height early. Because
Yeah,
girls, we grow fast and then we just stop.
right.
So I was a little on the awkward side, but super friendly. I wasn't a bully, but I was never afraid to fight.
Oh gosh.
Yes. And I will say that was the one thing about me in elementary and middle school is my mom always said that I was a fighter because when I was younger, much younger, my mom said I was always afraid to fight. So if someone
Hmm.
would pick on me, I would come in the house and I would cry. And my mom is a typical black woman who does not play any games. And
Yeah,
she's like, listen, I'm not raising you to let anybody beat on you. So you need to go
yeah.
out there and you fight back. And because my mom is who she is, you want to fight them or you want to fight me? And I'm like, well, ma'am, I'm going to lose that fight. So I guess. So I learned that no one could really take advantage of me because I was actually pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
No matter, like, despite how sensitive I was pretty
Yeah.
tough. I was a pretty tough cookie. And I was to myself, as long as you didn't bother me, I didn't bother you. And I've always been the type of person is I have like a set of core friends. I would
Mm-hmm.
always find one or two, three at the most people that I really connected with, and those would be the only people that I would be with. That's kind of how even through high school, I had three friends. And our senior superlatives, when they do all the voting and all that, we won best friends
No.
because those are the only girls that I hung out with on a
Mm-hmm.
consistent basis. But so many people knew who I was because I'm a friendly person. But I'm not quick to call everybody my friend. I'm not quick to let everybody in my circle.
But it sounds like you've become very good. Not become, it sounds like you always were really good at picking your people, right? The
Yes.
right environment.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to be. And I think that does stem from childhood. I had to be because I had to always be on high alert when it came to my environment as a
Yeah.
child. And it taught me how to really trust my intuition when it came to people.
Yes.
And that's one thing now is my intuition. I know it does not lie. So if I feel like something's off, if I feel like something's not right, I will follow that. And I will tell people, listen, I don't know what's off here, but something off. Energy, if I walk into a room, I can feel an energy. I can feel energy shifts.
Yep.
Like I'm super sensitive in that way.
Absolutely. So, what has changed since you were diagnosed?
Oh, so much. So many things have changed. I have gotten to the point where I've understood my defiance against mainstream society and
Uh-huh.
like why I've always felt like, no, I don't need to do anything your way. I can do it my way and still be great. Like, but I think I've embraced it more, understanding why my brain is the way it is and really understanding that most things aren't set up for me. You know, most coaches, consultants, most programs, most things are not set up with the neurodivergent brain in mind. And it taught me how to almost in a sense I call it nitpicking, But basically, take from things what I can, and what doesn't
Uh-huh.
apply, just let it go. Whereas everyone doesn't do that. Some people take things so personally because they almost feel like, if this person can do it and they're successful, why can't I? Why am I not doing the same? Why can't I do the same? What's wrong with me? And I've learned that it has absolutely nothing to do with me. It's just that I'm not that person. I can't do things the way they do things. I need to do it the way that I do it in order for it to work for me. So I know what works for my brain and what doesn't. And I'm very clear on that. And I will let, even with my clients, I will let them know if you ask me to do something and I've been procrastinating on it, I will tell you something about this task is not vibing with my brain because I don't want to do it. Like I can't bring myself to do it. And my clients love me so much that we always figure a workaround. Like, okay, if you can't do it, who on your team can? Because it needs to be done, and we already know how it is for you. But it's changed a lot. I have learned to set my own parameters around my work schedule. I don't take calls before 10 a.m. I know that I don't sleep well at night, so I need more time in the morning to
Hmm.
just be gentle with myself and kind of ease into my day. So I'm not quick to get up and respond to emails or any of that. I take my time. I've learned that some days I follow the dopamine. Whatever my brain wants me to do, sometimes I just allow myself to do it, because even though I may not have done something that should have been done, I'm still productive because I did something that I wanted to do that needed to be done at some point. It
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't a rush, but that's what my brain wanted to do, and it still needs to be done at some point. So I was
Yeah.
productive just in my own way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to know, what was the trajectory? Like, how did the digital solutions team come about? Because it sounds like you've been doing this kind of work for quite a while.
It's funny. To be honest, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur
Hmm.
because I don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
And I never liked the manager to employee dynamic.
Mm.
I feel like most managers don't understand what it means to value people, and
Hmm.
they don't know the difference between managing and leading. The way I'm naturally made up is I'm naturally a leader. If I respect you as a person, I work hard. And I don't do it because I love the company. I do it because I respect the leadership. Like, if I like the leadership, the person that is supposed to be managing me, then I will give it all of me. Like, I will overwork because that's who I am. And I got to a point where I learned about the whole virtual assistant thing because after the military, I had several different types of jobs, many in customer service. I've worked for the IRS, I've worked for Child Protective Services, I've done a lot of things. Because I told you I couldn't stay at one for more than a year to 18
Hmm.
months, and then I had to move on and do something else. But I learned about the term virtual assistant when I started doing executive assistant work.
Hmm.
And in 2016, I learned about Upwork. So I went
Yeah.
on Upwork. I got a client, my first client, and I worked with her as her VA while I still had my full time job, just on the side, kind of learning more about it. And I was like, okay, maybe I could do this one day. And I worked with her for about a year, and then I stopped. So fast forward, I did some moving around. I was in Texas from 2010 to 2013. I moved to California, and I was in California from 2013 to 2016 or 17. Yeah, 17. Then I came back to Texas in 2017. So when I first got back here, I had like some different types of jobs, and the last job I had was as an admin assistant for a tech startup, so to speak, and the dynamic wasn't great. And my innovative brain would always try to bring new things to the table, and I felt like I was always shot down. And I'm like, we're like a 5 to 6 person team, and the company is relatively successful, and here's a chance for me to make a mark and help grow, this team, so to speak, and grow with it. And I always felt like it was shot down. And there were
Hmm.
things that like leadership could do that the rest of us couldn't do, like work from home. The
Uh-huh.
holidays would come around, all the CEO, the director of marketing, and all of them, they're working from home. But I'm like, it's three of us in this office. Nobody comes in here.
Mhm.
So why can't we work from home during the holiday time?
Yeah.
And instead of considering it, it was like literally I got a message with a screenshot saying, blame this person as to why we can't do work from home. I don't trust it. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But you and all the higher leadership do it.
Mhm.
And I think I was just at my breaking point. I was tired. I was like, I'm so tired of being undervalued, underpaid.
Mhm.
I can't. So that's when I said, I'm just going to work on starting my business. And I'm smart enough to know that no business starts off successful. It takes time to grow. So I used to do home studies for Child Protective Services. So you can do that either through a contract with the state or a child placement agency. So I was like, I will look to see if there's any contracts available to do home studies. And that'll be my backup plan because with that, I control my schedule. I just need to schedule meetings with the family. I go
Mhm.
interview the family and type of report, and like I can work around that. So I found a contract. I took 3 studies and then I put in my 2 week notice. And I told them that I wanted to be able to spend more time with my family and all of this. Now, when you decide that you want to do something different, you want to start a business, you go and you start to update things like LinkedIn because now you know that like I need to put this out to the world.
Yes.
I put my notice in maybe the end of the week, 1 week. By Monday the next week, I got called into the office and they were like, we know that you're, according to LinkedIn, that you are doing something that's similar to what you're doing here. And that was a problem. I was so confused. I was so confused. And they were like, you said you wanted to leave because you wanted to be with your family. I said, yes, but I still have to make money.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they basically was like, well, let's just make today your last day. And they made me sign a piece of paper basically saying, we'll pay you for your 2 weeks as long as you don't ask for unemployment. And I was fine with that.
Mhm.
And that very day, February 3rd, 2020, 2 things happened. I had interviewed with the client, my very first client from Upwork. She basically reached out and offered me the position as her VA. Do you know she's still my client today?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And I also got accepted with an agency as well. The next day, I got accepted with another agency. And literally, when I tell you everything fell into place so perfectly,
Yeah.
like that first month, February, that first month of February, I literally made the same amount I would have made if I
Uh,
stayed at work
but that was like right before COVID.
right before.
Oh.
Right
So were
before.
you panicked?
No.
No, you knew these businesses you had, they were going to keep going, and this was actually a better decision.
Yes. Because it worked out well for me.
I love that. I love that. So, Latrice, you do something differently, is my understanding. Not only do you gear it towards people with neurodivergent, primarily ADHD brains, but it also sounds like you do coaching around. So tell us what you're doing. And then I remember automation, and that's the one that I was like, oh my God, I need that.
It's so funny. Yes, because in the beginning, when I first started the company, it was more so VA,
Yeah.
and because that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I quickly learned that that is not something I wanted to do. The mundane task was it was not fun for me. But I also realized at that point I was getting clients pretty quickly, and I was like, I can't do this by myself because
Uh-huh.
it puts a cap on one, how many people I can work
Right.
with, two, my income. So I started to hire, and that's how it quickly turned into an agency. And that first year, we did a lot of mainly just admin related things.
Mm-hmm.
But my very first client, whom I adore, started to bring me into more of tech and doing system things. And that's when I learned that I love systems. Like, I love systems. And the second year of business, we started to transition more into tech and operations
Mm.
because I realized I am a creative problem solver. I will figure out how to make 2 things that seem unrelated work together.
Uh-huh.
That's what I shine in. And a lot of my clients would tell me, you're not a VA, like at
Yeah.
all. And you're very strong with strategy. Like you're very strong with ideation and brainstorming, I am great at those things. So I started to lean into that a lot more. So now the company that I have is more so geared toward only systems and tech, and basically working with clients in that capacity of like helping you scale, helping you grow with the right systems, the right things in place. I think it was more so maybe last year to now that it started to shift to be a little bit more towards neurodivergent brains,
Mm-hmm.
because I talk about ADHD so much, my name started to come up about it.
Uh-huh.
So by default, those are the type of people I started to attract.
Okay, so that's leads to my next question. Great segue. What is the biggest mistake that you see ADHD entrepreneurs make when they're setting up systems? And I'm as I'm thinking about this question, I'm thinking probably the problem is we don't set up systems, right? We just kind of wing it. So, can you talk a little bit about that, systems and the ADHD brain?
I think the biggest problem is, and this also too can depend on the person, because sometimes there are people with ADHD who don't really like systems. Like they're not techie, they're not tech savvy.
Yes.
So getting into all that is overwhelming, just even
But
thinking about
Latrice,
it.
I think that's because they don't understand systems
And
because
that's true.
our brains need that more than anyone, even though we do that oppositional thing, right? Because it makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. And I agree with that. Because for me, when I started to understand what it meant to have systems, systems aren't just about tools.
Mm.
Systems are about having the right workflows or the right things in place to help ease your workload, to help make
Yes.
things a lot easier for you. One thing about us, we forget a lot of things. I say
Yeah.
out of mind. Like I don't talk to most of my family because out of sight, out of mind. Like
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but it's true. So I have to put things in place to help me remember. So
Yes.
like for example, I have a Zapier,
Mhm.
Zap set up, that when a new client comes on board, I always make sure I add their birthday and the day that they start, because
Mhm.
most of my clients have always stayed with me for at least a year or more.
Mhm.
So their birthday, there's a Zap that will send me in my Slack channel a
Yeah.
reminder 10 days before. Such and such birthday is coming, make sure you buy their gift. Such and such anniversary is coming, make sure you buy. Like things like that. Because those little things, even if they're on my calendar, it will go over my head until I
Yep.
see it like 2 days before. But having something in place that will automatically tell me at least 2 weeks prior will alert me so I can make some moves and make sure I do it. Delegation is big. People don't realize like we hold too much and we can't do anything, and we're easily overwhelmed. Task overwhelm is a thing, and being pulled in many directions is just it's our normal. And although we do well sometimes when it's super chaotic, we still need some form of structure. It just has to be created in a way that works for our brains. Like it has to be a structure we made for ourselves that makes sense.
Yes. I mean, I can say all this. I don't believe I have it all. But what I notice is the minute I said I automate anything, it right away calms my nervous system down because I don't have to always go check it or I don't always have to go do the thing. And so my strategy is it's not, okay, how am I going to do this? It's always, who can I delegate this to?
Yes.
How can I never have to deal with this again? Right?
Yes, that's exactly the thing. And I think I'm learning now more and more, as I grow as
Mm-hmm.
an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman. For me, because of the things that I enjoy, I am slowly but surely getting bored with the implementation, because I like being the brain. Because we've discovered that my brain, that's my creative genius. Like that's my
Yeah.
zone of genius. It's my brain. It's how I think. I question everything. My clients love to use me as a sounding board because I'm a question everything that you're saying, and I'm gonna make you think about it. If you have a new offer, we're gonna talk through it, and it's gonna be candid. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm gonna make you think. Like, okay, is that something, like how is this different from this and what you're currently doing, and why this, why now, who is this supposed to be for? when I hear it, this is what I think. So they love those types of conversations because it allows them to sit and think so
Mm.
much more about, okay, you're right. And a good example is a recent conversation I had with a client about a newsletter and what she wanted to name it. And literally, most of the team loved it. They thought it was on brand. And I was like, I have thoughts and I have questions. Like, why this? Why not this? Who's supposed to do this? And literally, one of the team members put in the chat, like, Latrice, you are a gift. Because the way I think is very much different than how most people think. The way I read into words is very different than how people actually read into words. I am like, I get where you're going with this, but what you're using isn't powerful enough.
The thing is, too, that's where the coaching comes in, right? Because you are actually helping them process their thoughts and ideas and then challenging them
Yes.
because they could be better. So, to me, that is what we need so much help on because we may have all these ideas, but we're
Yes.
so close to it. And I don't think that's neurodivergent brain exclusively, but it's worse because we have so many thoughts. And so to have someone that sits down with you and helps you process the challenge, honestly, that's half the battle.
Yes, it is.
So
And
I'm curious, what would you say to the woman listening who feels like she's just drowning in the day to day and she's starting to believe that, look, I'm just not cut out for business?
oh man, I would say that her first step is to look at how she can automate or who she needs to hire to hand it off to. Because she isn't realizing that what's happening is she's getting burnt out because she's operating in places that is not her zone of genius. So she's not enjoying it like she thought she would, and it's hard because the things that we don't want to do, we naturally cannot bring ourselves to do. So it makes you feel defeated in a sense, but it's not that. It's you need help. So either you get help through systems or you hire someone to help you. And if you want to get help through systems but you don't know systems, that's why you hire someone on a project basis. Have someone set it up for you so things can run for you on the back end to make it smoother.
I love that. No one ever sets the world on fire in their weaknesses and trying to shore up their weaknesses. We do that in our strengths. And so, again, it's always, who can I get to do this? Because I know there's someone who will do it much better because they actually love it.
Yes, agree. That is so true.
So, Latrice, what is your number one ADHD workaround?
My number one workaround, automations. I mean, to be honest, because I need my environment to do the heavy lifting for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely all of the automations, all of the workflows that I have in place to help make sure that the things that I can't naturally do or I'm not naturally drawn to can just get done.
Absolutely. So, where can people find you if they want to know more about you and what you do? Because I am hopeful that there will be a lot of people raising their hand. Latrice, help me, and I am going to be one of them. So, just so you know that.
I am on LinkedIn, Latrice Prater. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I've noticed that most of my clients have come from LinkedIn. So, LinkedIn for sure. I would say also my website, www.thedstagency.com. Also on Facebook, Latrice Prater. Facebook is probably where you get a lot of rawness from me when it comes to my daily experiences as an ADHD entrepreneur, as a mom, as all the titles and roles and hats that I wear, and how my neurodivergent brain has to navigate all these things and just what is it like? Because so many women experience it, and sometimes I get people who say, I just got diagnosed, or hearing your story makes me think that I probably have ADHD, or I'm so happy someone's talking about this.
Well, I'm just so happy that there's someone with ADHD who understands the ADHD brain. And I think a lot of people would think, well, people with ADHD wouldn't be good at what you're good at. BS. That is your area of interest. We're all, interested in different things. And so I always believe that you find the best person you can in any area. And that usually is someone with ADHD because we hyperfocus when we're interested, right?
We do. We do.
I love this conversation, Latrice. All the links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for spending time with us here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed myself.
Great. So that's what I have for you for this week. If you like this episode with Latrice, please let us know by leaving a review. Our goal is to change the conversation around ADHD, helping as many women as we possibly can learn how their ADHD brains work so that they too may discover their amazing strengths. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you here next week.